Bapanada everyone! On the 6th of July I released a video in which I tried to predict the release of Silksong. It really resonated well with you guys and hard carried the channel for a while, so thanks for the feedback. In that video I made the overly precise prediction that the game would come out on the 29th of September, which would be today. And well, I don't see Silksong anywhere to be honest, so my prediction was wrong, but I know why it was wrong. Now, before we get into the bulk of this video, I have to mention 3 things. Number 1, many things of what I will say will require you to know a bit about the history of Hollow Knight and the history of Silksong. If you want to see the marketing angle of Hollow Knight's release, which is part of why I think the way I do about Silksong's release, check out my previous video, which I mentioned earlier, since I take a look at what kind of marketing language Team Cherry usually uses. If you want a more humorous video, which doesn't focus on a specific part, but rather gives a good look at all aspects of Team Cherry's history, then check out this Mossback video. Number 2. If you wanna chat about Hollow Knight Silksong or anything else basically, join the official Stizzl Discord server. We are currently about a dozen of people having fun and doing all kinds of stuff, so check it out if you are interested. And number 3, take all of what is going to be said with a huge grain of salt. I'm only doing this for fun and I am not an expert in marketing or video game development. I'm also not urging Team Cherry to release Silksong at a specific date. They can take all the time they want to make sure the game will be a game they will be happy with. But since those cheeky nerds aren't telling us a lot about the game, speculating and discussing about stuff makes the wait for the game shorter. Let's start with the first part of the prediction. Why was my previous prediction inaccurate? So let's cut straight to the chase here. I made a mistake. In my defense, the first prediction video required a lot of research, but if I had dug a little deeper I would have been able to not fuck up. There were 2 main reasons why I predicted the release date to be the 29th of September. The first one being that in June, Nintendo said that Silksong would come soon, which, if you know Team Cherry's way of marketing, would mean in 3 or 4 months. That reason is fine. The second reason, however, was that the holiday season is around the corner, and I said that a September or October release would be better since the competition releases their games mostly just before Christmas, so in December and especially November. But when we take a look at 2019's game releases, that is simply not true. Now there are games that release in November or December 2019, the biggest of which are Death Stranding, Need for Speed, Pokemon, Star Wars, Shenmue or Doom. But if we compare that to what released in September and what is about to release in October, the sheer quantity of games in that time frame just can't really be compared to that of November or December. I can't even begin to name the games that release in that huge time frame, since it would stretch the video so much that my capitalistic butt would put like 20 ads in the video, and I'm sure you guys wouldn't want that. But to summarize, in December and November of 2019 we are looking at 24 more or less big game releases, while we have 94 releases in September and October combined. If they were to announce a release date out of nowhere and it would be in October, many people from outside the Hollow Knight community would simply overlook it. So now, since we have taken a look at my mistake now, let's get to the second part of this video. What release dates or time frames are possible or make sense? Again, everything in this video is to be taken with a huge grain of salt, and I'm just making this video since it is just a lot of fun to predict and discuss stuff like this. I'm also, of course, inviting you all to throw in your predictions and theories in the comments. When I think about possibilities to talk about Silksong, Team Cherry is being served an opportunity on a silver platter. It just depends on if they're willing and able to take a bite or not. I'm talking about PAX Australia. PAX is a gaming convention series, which has multiple events all over the world each year. For example, PAX West in Seattle was at the end of August, or PAX East in Boston will be at the end of March. PAX Oz, however, will be from the 11th of October till the 13th, so in roughly 2 weeks. PAX Australia is a rather small convention, with only a few thousand attendees. However, Team Cherry were featured 2 times in the last years. In 2017, Hollow Knight was part of a speedrun panel, and in 2015 Hollow Knight was shown off in the Indie Showcase. Therefore, it would certainly be a very nice opportunity for Team Cherry to show up with, for example, a release date trailer or at least some sort of trailer or news for Silksong. PAX Australia will be in Melbourne, which is not far away from where Team Cherry is located at all. Then, if Team Cherry was at PAX Australia, an announcement would definitely be among the biggest of the entire expo, and since PAX Australia is among the PAX conventions, media coverage and general interest is way bigger than at many other expos, such as the Game City in Vienna, which is 10 times bigger than the PAX Australia, and yet I bet almost none of you have heard about it. There's no word from Team Cherry about whether they will attend PAX Australia, so let's talk about what happens if they drop a release date trailer. When could that release be? Let's take a look again at the game release chart from before. I think that, for example, December is still very open, so a release in December would make a lot of sense if we want to be optimistic. It would be a great way to still get buffed sales because of the holidays and there's not a lot of competition. I think the most realistic date is a December release, such as Friday the 6th, but this is still very optimistic of me. So what if we don't get a release date or they just don't show up at all? Well, then they could basically just be featured in a Nintendo Direct in January 2020 or an Indie Direct to get some media attention. If the game gets a release date trailer in that time frame, be it in a Direct or not, when should they release the game? Well, let me tell ya, while January 2020 is a chill month so far, we got two bigs coming in February. The Last of Us 2, which will release on the 21st, and Ori and the Blind Forest, which will come out on the 11th of February. Also, don't forget Final Fantasy VII on the 3rd of March. This time frame, being January till March, is still somewhat possible, but a bit worse than the time frame I mentioned prior. That's because the two AAA releases would lead to Silksong's release being close to unnoticeable for mainstream gamers, and more importantly, Ori is hard competition, maybe one of the hardest competitors possible, since both games are Metroidvanias. Another possibility is that the game simply isn't finished yet and it will take at least till April 2020. I don't think this is really likely since they did say the game would come soon, in June 2019. But they maybe wanted to make the game even bigger or had more ideas or had to fight with some struggles during development which they just didn't see coming. If the game comes out later than March, an indie or the E3 2020 would be perfect to drop the game. Evidence that could but most likely doesn't support such a quote-unquote late release would be that a placeholder release date was leaked a few weeks back and it stated it would be released June 12, 2020. However, that was just a false alarm and was just the placeholder for the release date, which they created radiance knows when. A release in that second quarter of the year would almost certainly mean that they won't have a lot of competition, since especially those months are normally a bit of a drought period release-wise. These are the three most likely possibilities in my opinion. If I'm completely honest, then I'll have to say I don't think Silksong will release after June 2020. Of course, there could be some things beyond what I can predict. For example, Team Cherry having to deal with some significant game issues due to implementing something in the game which is so completely new that they can't carry over the experience they'd gotten from developing Hollow Knight. But if everything goes as planned, then the release shouldn't be that far off. You have to remember that they started developing Silksong in February 2017, and although they also made some great DLCs since then, the main focus still must have been Silksong. My personal guess is that they are in the testing phase right now and getting some translations done. And if I had to pick a date, which for the sake of this video I say I have to, then I'd go with the aforementioned date of the 6th of December. Since I'm a rather optimistic person, I just think that would be the perfect way to get the most amount of sales as fast as possible. So that is my second prediction for Silksong's release date. I do hope I am somewhat right and my prediction has some merit to it. If there are any updates coming after this video gets released, for example after PAX Australia, then I'll probably make a video about the update and or also write some stuff here in the comments. Please leave all of your predictions in the comments as well. If you like this video and would like to see more Hollow Knight or Silksong content, please check out my other videos on my channel. That's it for now. I'll be answering every comment under this video and hopefully I'll see you higher beings in the future. Take care.